Hello everyone. So I'm Dani. I'll be talking to you about 3D modeling or 3D rendering. And I'll be focusing more on the aspect of how it affects our day-to-day lives and how it affects companies and things we do and how we approach it. So a bit of background. I started with 3D modeling when I was in matric in 2015. I first only got deep into it at my time in university at Port with mechanical engineering. But the first time I actually realized how big 3D modeling is and how much impact it can give to us, it was just after I finished university, because that's when I really started having fun with 3D modeling. And that's the biggest part I found in 3D modeling is if you have to have fun with it, because otherwise it doesn't really give you as much as as you would expect. So first things first, what is 3D modeling or 3D rendering? It's when you're I'm seeing all my spelling mistakes pop up now. It's when you're creating a virtual item or object with three dimensions. The keyword there being virtual. So you're creating a three-dimensional item or object on your computer itself. So with normal sketches and normal images that we work with, you usually work with two dimensions. That's the x-axis and the y-axis. You can kind of do a illusion of 3D with those axes, but it won't ever be true 3D unless you add the z-axis, which the 3D modeling and rendering provides us. So it's the z-axis that gives us the depth of the object that we're creating. So the benefits we're getting from 3D modeling over normal sketches or imaging is it can be easier to create and change because especially with sketching, when you're trying to sketch in 3D, is you have to sketch each side and different angles to get the full lapse of what you're wanting. But with the 3D modeling, you create one object, you create it once, and you have all the sides already there for you. It's also easier to change because once you change that one thing on the object, you don't have several designs or several sketches you need to just change. You just change the one item or object that you're busy modeling or creating. It gives you the full 360. Everything is visible from every angle. So it's easier to find that details that are missing or something that doesn't look right. You can be like, oh, it's because of this piece of wire or arm that's not aligned correctly, because it looks good from the front, but because you're looking at it from an angle, you realize it's too far forward or too far back. So it gives you a much better view of what it is you're creating. Uh, One of the big pluses for 3D modeling or rendering is that a lot of the software nowadays comes with a lot of simulations that you can run it through. So tests you can have that kind of shows you how it will interact and how it will move uh, in an actual 3D space. So it makes it more realistic, helps you see what it is you're working with, and it doesn't give you the illusion of the 2D of okay, this could work. It actually shows you that you might need to make objects' legs higher for it to be able to jump properly or things like that. So it gives us real world physics in a simulated area with 3D modeling. And then there's hundreds of ways to use 3D modeling and rendering. Each depends on what you're trying to focus on. So you can do just objects. You can do objects, entire environments, and you can have them all interact. You can switch lights where you want light focus to be in constant movement, and so much more. So these are just the basics of the benefits from 3D modeling. But as we go deeper into it, as we go into each subsection of where it's being used currently, we see even more benefits popping up that's unique to that uh, section or company that's using it. So first off is virtual reality. This is mostly used in gaming, uh, and yeah, in gaming, where we want to put ourselves in the game. We don't want to just look at a screen using controllers and just walk around. We want to actually be there, experience it, be able to look back and actually see the more of the game. So in this field of 3D modeling, it creates a more realistic feel. So you can actually get objects to the correct size and adjust it to everything else. You can make it smaller, bigger. You can adjust items to how it would look in real life and have a more realistic game view than you would with normal 2D. It gives you better interactions in the sense of, because it's 3D, you don't pick up a blank slate. You pick up an actual object. You're interacting with an actual 3D modeled object that has physics, that has weight. So it interacts the way it's supposed to, instead of just being a plain screen or a plain item that's just has one look, no matter how you look at it. With this, you can have like, for example, a skull, where you can have the round backside and then the front side with teeth and eye holes, and you can actually switch it around in your hands in the game and see those different aspects instead of just having an image that always shows the front no matter which angle you look at it from, which was where 3D modeling in virtual reality kind of started, was just superimposing images in different directions. But we've come a long way from there. And then one of the big things, it does improve spatial awareness. So spatial awareness is how objects interact with each other, how they look compared to other objects, and how their positioning is. So with 3D modeling, because you have actual depth, you can place that couch 3 meters away and you can place the table a meter away, and you'll actually see that difference within the design and within the setup. So it makes it easier to create realistic spatial awareness within virtual reality, which makes it a much more interesting game and much more easier to navigate certain maps or certain places within games. And it allows you to be more creative, because like I said previously, you can edit the molds you have or the renderings you do have, and then just play around with it and just add the strangest things and see how it interacts with the world. And you can come up with crazy designs and then have them actually visually in front of you in a 3D render, instead of having normal 2D sketches that usually just show one aspect of an item. So it gives you mind free rein to be more creative and more open and more visual. Next, we have augmented reality. This is quite a big one. This is what most companies kind of lean towards when they think about 3D modeling, because this can be used in almost any website, any application, as where you have a 3D modeled item that you superimpose on actual reality. And then you can actually move around that object and see how it would look in real life. So this gives you better visualization. So it can help you see how it would adjust the space or how it would look in that space. And you can fix how you want to place it. You can pre-plan. Yeah, it gives a more realistic idea of what it is you're buying, especially with retail stores. If they have a 3D rendering of their product, it gives a better visualization of what it is you're actually buying, instead of just the image. It also gives you more size accuracy. I know there's a lot of people that complain when they buy stuff online, it's too small, too big, because they didn't really know the size and they didn't look at the dimensions. With the augmented reality using 3D modeling, you can actually have a perfect size comparison to what it is you're actually trying to get or compare it to. It's very good for interior designers. It's also good for home renovations, as well as it's been used quite a bit in real estate. So when you have a 360 camera where you walk through the house and you get imagery of the house, but in some cases the house is empty, so there's no furnishing, and to kind of give a more homey feel and have people be able to kind of decorate the house to see if it would fit their style before buying it. They can use augmented reality with the 3D modeling aspect to kind of furnish the house and place objects where they want them and see if it would fit how their lifestyle is. Again, it's easy to change and alter. You can have several of the same couch model, but simply by changing the color of the pigment of the couch, you have several different couches, all made of the same model, just colored differently. Which is also slightly where it kind of improves on 2D, where sometimes you have to completely recreate the image to give it a different color. But that's also been improved over recent years. But it still doesn't compare to how easily it is to compare and change and saved and completed. And you can copy it and you can mold a new one using the existing one. Like I said, it's a good marketing tool for especially for like real estate and products that you want to style in real estate and in normal just normal products as well. And it's close to, like I said, closer to reality. It's easy enough to kind of visualize something better in the space that you're augmenting it into. And then the next one is kind of more web-based, which is animation. So animation can go from big company featured films and things like that to simple little animations you have on your website. So the benefits to 3D modeling on this aspect is it saves time and money because you don't have to sketch or create each scene that you're trying to recreate. You just have one model created once. It has 360 and you can make it move however you want to make it move. It's easy to adapt and change. You can change the animation simply by a few clicks, by simply adjusting a few things in the settings. And then it's the same model, the same setup, just slightly different animation. So it's much easier to personalize and adjust, and it does really save a lot of time because it's only one thing. It's only one thing you create. Well, depends on the size of the project you're trying to accomplish. Like a full feature film, you'll have to create a bit more, but for a simple mascot on your website, you create one mascot and you can slightly change it every time it gets updated, and you have it done, do a small little animation on your website. It's much easier than to try and actually get animators to sketch it out for you, and it's much easier and simpler and much quicker to implement. You can have also, like I said, more realistic and accurate movement because you give it joints, you give it places for to bend, and you can make it like move really like a realistic figure would move using the inbuilt physics. So it's not as cartoonish. So if you're looking for a more serious mascot for your website or more serious animation that's not as cartoonish, 3D modeling is definitely one of the ways to go. But you can kind of, because it's virtual, you can almost make it do anything. So you can go full cartoonish as well if you want to. But it excels more in the realistic movement and realistic featuring is where it is most benefited. Better use of space. So if you have several objects within the animation, it interacts with it more accurately. It's easier to interact with other objects, to have it pick it up, have it move around, have it throw something maybe. So because the space is can also be 3D rendered, it's all in a single ecosystem. So it all interacts within that ecosystem, and it will realize, okay, cool, I walked into a wall, I need to change direction and things like that. Well, once you run it through a simulator or through an animation setup, and it will know these things, and it can easily adapt to that, and you get a better movement of space and more accurate movement of space. It's very adaptable, in the sense of you can change it, you can adapt it, you can simply just go in and change whatever you need to change on that one file, and everything will be adjusted accordingly. You don't have to go through pages of sketches or images and take them out and put in new ones or create new ones. You just simply change a few things and you have almost a completely new animation or new setup. So in animation is much more leaned towards website building and maybe short films you want to do for your company or something like that. And then this has gone heavy into personal development, but a lot of companies have kind of started doing this as well. That's using the 3D modeling system to create renders, which they then 3D print. And this is also one of the biggest influences in tech, especially because you can model the item you want, and then you can 3D print it and test it out in real life, instead of having to spend thousands on thousands of rand to kind of send it into a company to create it for you using machinery and things like that. 3D printers aren't that expensive nowadays. They do cost quite a bit. They can range from 5,000 to 20,000 on the cheap end, but usually they're very reliable, and you buy it once and then you can have it for several years. The only thing you'll continue buying is the filament. That's what's used to create the 3D print. And then so it's cost effective in a sense, for personal use, and then the bigger machines are more cost effective for companies, as they can literally adjust the model and that what they want without having to worry about adjusting the machines, because the 3D printing machines literally just reads your 3D modeling with it and slices it and then prints it out for you. So this is good for prototyping. So whenever you trying to create a new object or a new tech-based system, and you have all the wiring and all the electronics, but you don't have a casing, and you, instead of spending thousands for casings, you can simply print out the exact casing you're looking for, and then build your prototype and have a prototype within a week or less, and have it tested and run through different courses of testing and then just making adjustments. You can later just make simple adjustments on a 3D model where needed, for your next batch of testing. And then a lot of this testing can also be done in the virtual machine before printing it out. But yeah, you would most likely want to do both before trying to sell a product. It's been quite useful in creating unique tools. There's quite been a few times where I've tried doing something, working on my car or working on a model in my house or for something that I want, and then there's just a tool that would have been perfect to do a certain thing that I wanted to do, but not having that tool, or not having the tool not being available because it's such a unique niche tool that can be used to do it. With 3D printing and 3D modeling, you can simply just render a model of the tool and print it, and then there you have a tool that you can always use. It might not be as strong as metal tools, but it depending on what you use it for, it could last quite a long time, and then you don't have to go and search for the tool. You can simply print it out. This is very good for manufacturing as well. Like I said, companies are starting to invest into bigger 3D printers to, instead of having a manufacturing line, they 3D print out their products. This can be useful in the sense of it doesn't cost as much for several machines because you only have the one, and it also it allows you to adjust your product however you want to without having to worry about having to change several settings on machines, like I said previously. And then it's fun. One of the big things is it's fun to just make your own items and just see the things that you create in your mind and having them printed out for you in real life. It's one of the biggest joys I've seen in people's lives when they have an idea and they can actually create it and print it out without having to go through lines and calls and people and companies to try and get the things they want. They can simply just print it out for themselves, and it's such a joy just to see the thing that you designed right in front of you in real life. So that's quite nice. And then construction. I put this after 3D printing because construction has also kind of leaned towards that direction lately. So the first of 3D modeling has started out with building designs. So instead of having the 2D design floor plan, you create an actual layout of the house in the 3D render. It's easier to tour the house to see any spaces that you might have missed or that won't work properly because it's not constructed correctly. Uh, so where you can spot design and drawing errors, so where you can test a load-bearing column and see, will it hold out? Will it work? Do I need to move it? Do I need to enlarge it? So it helps a lot with solving those problems and those issues that usually you can't really see simply from a drawing because you actually have the 3D space to work with and you can test it and you can see what needs to be changed, what needs to be done. And it helps a lot with communication. We don't all necessarily speak the same language or know the same words, but if I give you a 2D sketch of a floor plan, you might have an idea of what's going on, but you won't really know everything unless you learned how to read a floor plan. But if I give you a 3D modeled house that you can tour and that you can walk into and that you can look around and actually look at and see, it's gonna make a lot of those communications much easier because you don't have to worry about strange symbols on a page. You can simply look at it and see what it is for what it's meant to be. It's also good for getting projects uh, going because a lot of times floor plans and things like that have to be approved. But because there's so much drawing and stuff that goes into it, it can take quite a while. But if you make a 3D model that can simply be changed without having to completely draw up a new sketch, it shortens the process and it helps getting projects approved and going. So the biggest thing about where we're going into now is that we can start 3D printing actual houses. Uh, there have been several houses printed now, like the one in the image you see now is a 3D printed house. It uses the same method as normal 3D printing, but instead of plastic filament, it uses cement. And to do this, you kind of lay out a plan, and it helps having a 3D model to correlate where all this needs to happen. So yeah, our construction is also moving towards 3D modeling and 3D printing that model, which shortens the amount of people you need to construct the house. It shortens the time it takes for the house to be constructed. So it really speeds up that process, meaning that several houses can be built in the same time it would have taken us to build one house. So that's quite a big plus on 3D modeling side. So yeah, there's quite a few places where you can get started with 3D modeling. And then all these, there's a lot of software out there. It takes one Google search and you'll get a list of them, and they can range from beginner to professional. But they're mostly each designed for a specific purpose. So if you need a 3D model for a specific reason and you know what that reason is, it's much easier to find the software for you. But for general, sorry, excuse me. For general use, I would recommend Blender. You can find it at blender.org. It's more on the professional side, but it's easy enough to use. There's a lot of videos out there that can help you get started. And it gives you everything you need, from animation to physics to simply just creating a tiny figurine that you want to create. So there's quite a bit Blender has to offer in the 3D modeling and rendering platform. So it's really one I would recommend. But if you're looking for something very specific, it's best to kind of just look for that on the lists of options they have out there. Because 3D rendering has become such a big thing in modern day that there's lists and lists of places you can go for it. So yeah, it's something that companies definitely need to look into, because anything can be improved on by using a 3D model. And yeah, I'm glad to have been here today, and thank you for listening to me. Hope I didn't bore you all to death.